What's up, you guys? Welcome back again to your Heroclix headquarters. Today, in honor of the release of the new Superman movie, I thought it was about time I updated my top 5 Superman list. So without further ado, let's get to it. Starting us off at number 5, I have the Justice League Unlimited Starter Set Superman. For one, I just love this figure because it's ripped straight out of the show. The sculpt looks great, and this one is from a very iconic moment in the show. This could have been an iconic set almost. But he does start with the founding members trait that all the Justice League figures in this starter set had, which gives him speed +2, but only if your force has 4 or more characters with Justice League keyword. And for all friendly characters with this trait, action total +1, but only if your force has 6 or more characters with the Justice League keyword. So if you're playing him at the 125 point line, the speed +2 does help a lot because he's got a 10 movement hypersonic. So that bumps him up to a 12 hypersonic, which, on the shorter maps now, 1 TK, he's all the way up in your opponent's starting area. So that's pretty awesome. And then he also has another trait that gives him super strength and free. Place Superman adjacent to an opposing character he knocked back at least 1 square this turn, then make a close attack targeting that character. So of course, super strength gives knockback. If you're knocking them back at least 1 square, he gets to place himself next to them and get another attack. And then you could potentially do another knockback damage. So he's got a lot of damage potential from that. And a lot of people back in the day used to combo him with one of the Mandarin rings. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but the one that gives you knockback, you can just free knock something back a square. So if you gave him that ring, even if he's double tokened, he could just free knock them back a square and then just free place himself and make a close attack. So that was pretty awesome. But then he also has a stop click with invulnerability and super senses, and he can't be healed. Now, taking a look at the dial, like I said, 10 movement hypersonic, 12 attack, 18 invincible, 4 damage with that 125 line. And for 60 points, you just got sidestep, 11 attack, 18 invincible, 3 damage with close combat expert, so he's still 12 for 4. Now this was definitely the Superman that wants to punch you. He doesn't have any range, so they didn't even bother to give him the Superman team ability, just the Justice League team ability, which did get a bonus recently. So now you get to pick a team ability at the beginning of the game, and all of your Justice League characters get +1 attack against them. So that is a change from when he was made originally. So now he could potentially have a 13 attack when he punches somebody. So pretty cool. And you got those 2 stop clicks at the end. So double stops are always really awesome. 60 points for the low dial. If he didn't have 2 stop clicks, I would be a little more concerned about it. But he does have some pretty good survivability there. Although stop clicks aren't quite what they used to be, it's still pretty good. And yeah, overall, just a really awesome version of the character. Like I said, he's just from a really iconic moment from the show. So for all those reasons, he's coming in at number 5. Coming in at number 4, I have the last year's 2024 starter set Superman. I love the sculpt on this one as well. Very awesome, Superman punch, jumping punch pose. It looks really cool. And since this guy is from the new starter sets, he does, of course, have 2 different dials. You can play him for 50 or 75. So starting for 50 points, he's got charge, but don't have speed. So you got an 8 movement charge, 12 attack, 3 damage with close combat expert. So 13 for 4. And, for 50 points, what more do you want? And he's got 7 clicks of life with some good damage reducers there. And, Superman team ability, if you want to use that 4 range, but he's got charge his whole dial, so you might not really need that. But yeah, overall, just a really good basic Superman, full movement charge, hits hard, has a long dial, only 50 points. What's not to love about that? And then the 75 point line is even better. I will point out that there is an error in the card. It was errated, or at least they mentioned that it is supposed to be a 12 also on click number 1, just like the 50 card and just like the dial has printed on it. It is a 12, click 1. I don't know how they managed to print an 11 on the 75 card, but mistakes happen sometimes. Anyway, this one has a trait that when Superman knocks back an opposing character, knockback damage that character is dealt, this action is penetrating, which is really awesome on his late dial Quake. But his new version of his movement power is charge, but don't have speed. And when he uses it and hits after resolutions, knock back any hit characters. So now you got full movement charge that also deals knockback, and any of that knockback is going to be penetrating. Honestly, I kind of just wish that instead of adding that extra part to that charge special, they just gave him super strength with the trait here. That would have been a really cool way to up his damage a little bit more if he picks up an object or something. But otherwise, a really solid version of the character. Honestly, he's kind of just like a cheaper version of my number 5. He's just missing out on the stop clicks. But considering the dial length of like this 50-point version versus the 60-point line on the other one, you know, even having 2 stops, I don't know. Sometimes stops are easy to get through, sometimes they're not. But this one just has a longer dial and is cheaper versus like the 75-point one. Is again has like the same amount of health, just no stop clicks, but it's 50 points cheaper. So yeah, I don't know, the 125-point line on my number 5 having 2 stop clicks and also being able to attack a second time in a turn when he knocks people back is really good. But you're saving 50 points on this one, the knockback's penetrating. I don't know, it's a give and take here. I could see either one of these being like 5 or 4 if you want to switch them, but I personally like this one a tiny bit better just because I think it's a little bit more point cost efficient. So yeah, for all those reasons, he's coming in at number 4 for me. Coming in at number 3 for me, I have the Iconics Up, Up, and Away Superman. Now, I know I've seen some people think he's kind of meh or just don't really like him at all, but I don't really know why. I think this version of Superman is great, representing both Clark Kent and Superman. It is not something we get to see a whole lot, and for only 60 points, I think this is a really solid dial. So he's got a special move power for his whole dial, which is just charge, and when he uses it after resolutions, knock back each opposing character he moved through. And of course, he can move through characters with flight. That does give you the ability to move through characters, but you still have to break away normally. My only gripe with him really is that I wish that on his first click here, which is kind of his Clark Kent click, I wish he had like a 10 attack or maybe 11 even instead of the 9. Because even if he's Clark Kent, you know, I don't see any reason why he couldn't have slightly higher attack. But yeah, he's got a 19 defense with willpower and a 2 damage with a special damage power that gives him Perplex and Outwit, and at the beginning of your turn, you may deal him 1 unavoidable damage. So at the beginning of any one of your turns, you can turn him into Superman if you want to, whenever you want to, whenever it, you know, seems like it's the best time to do that. So you can maybe take your opponent by surprise if you leave him as Clark Kent for a few turns, or you just jump him straight into Superman if you need to, you know, whatever. It's very situational, and I do like having that choice of having the Perplex and Outwit or being able to turn to Superman, because he does have the Superman team ability, so he can see through hindering, which means you can outwit stealth on stealthy characters and, you know, other cool stuff like that. And yeah, he just has a stop click with Impervious on his second click. So if you want to just let them swing at him and hit that stop click, you can totally just do that and let him be Clark Kent until he gets hit. But then he jumps up to a 12 attack super strength and 4 damage with leadership. So again, he's still very team friendly with leadership. And he also has the JSA team ability, which unlike the JLA team ability is more like defend, which is really good with the 19 defense he has on his first 2 clicks. And it even helps him later on when he goes down to a 17 with invincible. If you have a couple more JSA characters on your team, you might be able to keep him up at like an 18 or whatever. Especially now we're getting a bunch of new JSA characters in the upcoming Lantern Legacy set. So it could be a bunch of cool characters to team him up with and, you know, keep his defenses really high there as well. But yeah, I mean, it's a pretty basic dial otherwise. I just really like having the 19 defense, the Perplex and Outwit as Clark Kent, and then having that immediate stop click to turn into Superman. And, you know, you jump up there to the 12 attack, super strength, 4 damage, just charge in on somebody and hit him. Another really awesome thing about this Superman is he came with the phone booth blocking terrain, which I think is important because, you know, you could use that with any of these Superman figures and really give them a cool boost, because the effect of this terrain is that adjacent characters can use shape change if they're named Superman when they use it and succeed until their next turn. They have this character can't be targeted by opposing characters. So as long as you keep him adjacent to that, he's got a really awesome shape change special. And, you know, if you really want to, like I said, you could just turn him into Superman and just pick that thing up and go swing it at somebody. So yeah, just having him sit next to this phone booth, which is a 0-point terrain, by the way, give him that shape change. So the first click with a 19, you got shape change. And then if you turn into Superman, you got Impervious on top of that. Also, if you do turn into Superman, you at least have Protected Outwit from the stop click on the Impervious. So yeah, I don't know. I think for 60 points, he's just really good overall. He brings a lot to the table, very team friendly, and can be a very powerful attacker when he needs to be. And on top of that, I love the sculpt. I think that epic flying pose with the cape flying in the wind just looks really, really good. And yeah, he comes with one of the best terrain pieces in the game right now, too, on top of it. It's just like an added bonus, a little cherry on top. So yeah, I like this figure a lot. For all those reasons, he's coming in at number 3 for me. Coming in at number 2, I have the Superman from the newer 2025 starter set. This one has a really cool sculpt of him flying, holding a big, steel girder, which is awesome. Only downside to that is for some reason his sculpt is a little small. It's kind of almost on the same scale as like older Heroclix figures. So he looks a little small next to newer stuff, which is weird. Not sure how that would have happened, but regardless, he still looks awesome. And the dial is freaking amazing. So for 50 points, he has a special move power that when Superman moves after resolutions, he may make an attack either close or range. You've got 11 attack, penetrating blast, 3 damage with some leadership, 18 impervious, flight, 5 range. Like, he's got a long 7-click dial with mostly 18s, some good damage reducers. He goes up to a charge with close combat expert at the end, so he's still hitting with an 11 attack for 4 damage up close there. And of course, having Superman team ability and being able to see through hindering is actually really good for this one, since he is doing a lot more range attacks than some of the other Supermans that we've been taking a look at. But then taking a look at the 75-point version, he's got another trait, Man of Steel, which gives him super strength, and Superman can't be knocked back and can reduce penetrating damage. That right there is just so freaking powerful. Now all of his impervious that he's got there can reduce penetrating damage, the toughness even later as well. He would of course still be susceptible to some outwit, but being able to reduce penetrating is good enough for me. And adding that super strength is another great bonus, because then he can just move and pick up objects. It lets him do even more damage on the back half of his dial with the charge close combat expert. But his special move power is even better. It gives him flurry, and when Superman moves after resolutions, he may make a range attack or use flurry as free. So you can just move his full speed value and then flurry. It's almost the same as the other one that had the full movement charge. It just isn't charge. And it triggers off every move. Both of these effects that say when Superman moves, he can make a closer range attack, and then this one, when he moves, he can make a range attack or use flurry. So that means if you give him sidestep, he can move and flurry, and then he could sidestep. And you can't flurry as free again because you can't use the same free action more than once in a turn. But, if you sidestep away and shoot somebody with his 11 attack, 3 damage penetrating blast, he can get a whole nother attack in there. There's a lot of ways to give him multiple moves in a turn. Even if you just give him an equipment that gives him hypersonic, then you can actually move twice from hypersonic, move, attack, move again, and that will trigger it twice. So after resolutions of the hypersonic, he'll then be able to flurry and make a range attack, or just make 2 range attacks. So yeah, he can essentially hypersonic in there, shoot somebody, move, and then shoot 2 more times. Or maybe punch somebody with flurry twice. Like, he can make so many attacks, it's crazy. And being able to reduce penetrating is so good on top of that. And just a really, really solid dial all around. He's great at either the 50 or the 75-point line. The sculpt is awesome. Again, I just wish it was a little bit more accurate to current clicks. But besides that, this is one of the best Supermans we've ever gotten. And for all those reasons, he's coming in at number 2 for me. As always, before we get to my number 1 pick, I've got a few honorable mentions to go through real quickly. And I just want to point out here again that I did say at the beginning of this video it was time to update my list. I did do a previous top 5 Superman list a long time ago, so I would recommend going and checking that list out if you want to see some older recommendations. I still love all those figures in that list. They're all still very good as well, but I've got a few newer ones here. I want to start with the Superman that was like a WizKids exclusive. I think it was a WKO prize, like right before they stopped doing WKO. those. But he's got the same sculpt as the Trinity War Superman, which was one of my all-time favorite Supermans. But this one has this cool trait that if Superman is within 3 squares of a friendly character with the mystical keyword, he has protected outwit and penetrating psychic blast. So the other 2 figures that he was like in the prize kit or whatever for was Zatanna and Constantine. So they had kind of a little mystical theme going there. So yeah, if he's with a mystical character, if he's within 3 squares of a friendly mystical keyword character, he gets protected outwit and penetrating blast, which is really useful. And then he also has another trait that he gets super senses and super strength. Again, what's not to like about that? And then he's got charge and running shot on his move power, which again is just a really great combo. Lets him attack up close or at range, whatever you need to, whenever you need it. And his dial's pretty solid too. The only downside is he's 150 points. Pretty decent dial length, good damage reducers. I love the 12 attack penetrating blast for 5 damage and the 12 movement with the running shot and charge, and the traded super strength and super senses on top of all that is really great. And even, see-through hindering with Superman team ability, and just keep him with somebody that's mystic so he's protected outwit and penetrating blast, and he is a beast. He's just a little too many points. 150 is asking a lot nowadays. If he had a couple stop clicks, a little more health or something, it'd definitely be a lot better. But I still like him a lot. He's a very solid version of Superman. Definitely worth checking out. Now, these other 2 I have on this list have the same sculpt, but they are from 2 different sets. The first one here is Superman from the Wonder Woman 80th Anniversary set. He's got free choose a friendly sidekick. That character can use invulnerability until the end of your next turn. So he's a captain. They don't really do the captain sidekick thing anymore. They tried that for a couple sets. It didn't really catch on. But, if you have anybody that has the little sidekick tag above the picture, like he's got the captain one, then you can give them invulnerability, which is pretty good. He also has improved movement to destroy blocking terrain. He's got Superman and Wonder Woman team abilities, which is great because his special defense power is impervious and super senses and is protected outwit. So with the Wonder Woman TA, he'd have super senses on a 4 through 6. Anytime he's got the special defense power, which is most of his dial. He's coming in at 275 or 125 points. He's got a 15 movement charge, 12 attack with a 5 damage close combat expert, and 19 defense with that protected outwit, super senses, and impervious special. So just a really, really strong Superman. 11 clicks of life there. I wish he had some stops. I kind of wish the special defense power was also a stop. But, regardless, he at least starts with it on both point values, and he ends with it on the last couple clicks. He's got some impervious and invulnerability in the middle there. And yeah, just really solid stats and powers the whole time. So yeah, I just love seeing those kinds of stats on a Superman. They're just so high, it's kind of ridiculous, but it's Superman. What's not to love? You gotta give him some crazy high stats. And I also like the same sculpt version from the Batman team-up set. He also can move through blocking terrain. He's got a rally effect, which is honestly not that great, but it's free. Remove one of his rally dice to remove an action token from a friendly character within range. And it's blue 1. So blue is for friendly attack rolls. So whenever your friendlies roll a 1, you can put that die on his card and just remove it to, remove an action token. It's kind of nice because obviously if you're rolling 1s, you're not doing well. And that kind of lets you take an action back, sort of, and get that token removed anyway. And then he's got a special attack power, which is whenever he hits with a ranged attack, you can choose one to last until your next turn. A hit target can't use stop, or a hit target gains immobile. So really cool to immobilize people or just turn off their stop clicks. I mean, that's really powerful. He has 3 different point values, which is 150, 75, or 50. I don't personally like the 150. I mean, obviously, it's a lot of points. But also, his special attack power only works with range attacks, and he just has charge. He's got 12 attack, 4 damage, close combat expert, so 13 attack, 5 damage is always nice. But it just kind of feels like too many points, and you don't get to really use his best trick. So for 75 or 50, I do like him, but he, again, just kind of suffers from having a very short dial for those point values, especially nowadays. But having Superman and team player is nice. Usually you'd copy Wonder Woman with the team player, so when he gets to the super senses clicks at the end, you kind of have a chance of surviving. But at least having some kind of move and attack for his whole dial is nice. And he was one of the ones I liked to use with the World's Finest duo figure to bring him out if they were KO'd. You could bring him out at the 50-point line, and you have that cool ability to shoot somebody and turn off their stop clicks for a turn, which is pretty awesome. So yeah, he's kind of got a cool trick there, and he's a pretty decent version of Superman as well. Last but not least for my honorable mentions is one that I do not have. It is the Ultra Chase Superman from the Masters of Time set. And this one is really cool. It's got a really awesome dial. I really wanted to put him on the list, but the main problem I have with this figure is that I don't own one. So for that reason, he's an honorable mention for here. I kind of forget about him sometimes, but his sculpt is really awesome. He's got that classic flying around the world thing going on. So he's got a very long trait here, which you can just read yourself. Basically, just at the beginning of your turn, you can choose to bring everything back from the KO areas that's not like a bystander or whatever, and set both teams back up in their starting areas and kind of just start the game over from turn one, more or less. Of course, you're not immune, and some things are going to be a little different. Both players get 100 points, and then your turn ends. So you don't get to do anything on your turn other than maybe if things weren't going well and they KO your best figure, you bring them back with this guy. But he's 100 points, so he's probably should be already your best figure anyway. I don't know. He's got hypersonic, and when he uses it, he can use prob control for his whole dial, which is pretty good. And I mean, 12 super strength, 19 invincible, 4 damage leadership. He's got a really solid dial. He's also got Superman and Hyper Time team abilities, which are both good. Yeah, there's nothing not to like about this dial, and he's representing a very awesome moment from like the movies and stuff. So it's a really fun figure. I really want to get one. And like I said, he's just barely shy of making my list. But those are all of my honorable mentions. So without further ado, let's get to my number one pick. And flying into the number one spot, I have the Superman from the Iconics Death of Superman set. This Superman always just screamed Superman to me. He just really feels like the Superman. Like everything I would expect to see is here. So he's got a trait, which is a unique modifier that when Superman's KO'd, each friendly character that shared a keyword with him modifies their defense +1 this game, protected pulse wave. So even if he goes down, he is still buffing the rest of your team with a +1 defense, as long as they share a keyword with him. So that's really cool. He also has improved movement to destroy blocking, which is awesome. And on his special move power, he's got hypersonic speed and plasticity, so he can lock people down and, kind of hold them where you need to, or he can get away more easily to go hypersonic on somebody else. And his special defense power gives him invincible, and when a character attacks, if they could target Superman, they must and can't target other characters' protected outwit. So protected outwit invincible is already good enough, but he also forces anybody that could attack him to attack him. So he's essentially protecting your entire team that way. You can play him with a bunch of much weaker, squishier characters, and you don't really have to be too afraid about it. However, the only thing that really gets by that is pulse wave. His trait isn't protected pulse wave. So if somebody pulse waves everything, then of course it's going to essentially turn that off and they will be able to pulse wave everybody. But it does protect them from a lot of other things. So yeah, starting off, he's got 11 attack super strength and 4 damage with close combat expert. So of course 12 for 5 up close. Or you could, shoot. He's got 4 range with hypersonic, so you can make range attacks if you need to. And he's got the Superman team ability to see through hindering when he does. He's coming in at 160 or 35 points. So you got that awesome hypersonic and 19 defense with that defense special for the 160 points. Or for 35, he's still got the hypersonic just with some invuln and leadership. So he makes a cheap leadership character. And he doesn't have the protection thing, but he makes a lot more use of potentially being KO'd and giving everybody +1 to defense. So I think both point lines are very good and useful. If 35 is really cheap and he's giving you leadership and he's a really good attacker and he's buffing everybody when he gets KO'd, and then 160, he's like, in my opinion, the perfect Superman. And I mean, the sculpt is super awesome. It looks like straight off the comic. So I think they really hit it out of the park with these iconic sets. So I love this Superman. He may not be the absolute best Superman, but for me, he is. He represents everything, Superman should do, just swooping in there, saving the day, forcing your opponent to attack him and everything. And yeah, just super awesome. So for all those reasons, he's coming in at number 1 for me. All right, you guys, that about does it for this top 5 list. Let me know in the comments who your favorite Superman figure is. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to smash that like button and click that subscribe button so you don't miss any future videos. And if you want to help support the channel even more, check the links in the description for the Patreon, where you can see your name here in the credits with all these other awesome people. And as little as $1 a month gets you entered in my monthly giveaways. So make sure to check that out if that interests you. But that's going to do it for this video, you guys. Thanks again so much for watching. Until next time, this has been Heroclix Headquarters, signing off.